How's it going, everybody? We have a Fyter Fest card completely filled out now. Night 1 and Night 2. Butcher and Blade decide to steal FTR's truck. And we have a really weird press conference. It was just weird. What's up, everybody? Eric here from That's Wrestling. Thanks for tuning into the AEW post show for June 24th. 2020. If you are watching this over on YouTube, you can get this as a podcast on all your favorite podcast apps. But if you're listening to this as a podcast, head over to the YouTube channel because we do this show live every Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And also tune in tomorrow on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We will be doing a review show of night 3, 4, and 5 of the New Japan Cup. So be sure to check that out. Head over to iTunes, give us a 5-star review and all that fun stuff. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, send them over to Eric at that'swrestling.com. And with me tonight, as always, I have Dustin West. How's it going, man?
It's going, Eric. It has been we'll say complicated week in the world of professional wrestling. A lot of more negative than positive, but we're not to talk about that. If you're listening, what you should be doing to get that kind of news, you should already be listening to the That's Wrestling Newswire hosted by Eric LaRoche, but what was more positive than negative was last night's episode of AEW. It had a couple swings, a couple misses, a couple whiffs, but this was the go-home show of AEW Dynamite before Fyter Fest next week, and I am very excited to talk about it.
Yeah, so let's just get into it. Really, the show just started off right out of the gate with the Wardlow versus Luchasaurus Lumberjack match. This match pretty much looked like a cruiserweight match, with every Lumberjack being scared of the two participants because they're bigger than everybody who is surrounding the ring being Lumberjacks. So we have right out of the gate, they are going after each other. Luchasaurus rolls to the outside, but he's on the friendly side. Everybody leaves him alone. He gets back into the ring, and then after that, Wardlow actually throws him out to the heel side of the ring, and they all start beating on him, but he just kind of stands up, and everybody backs away. And then Luchasaurus hits a few kicks. Wardlow actually ends up catching one, hitting a fisherman suplex on the big guy, and then Luchasaurus, a few more kicks, hits a standing moonsault. And then Luchasaurus tries to pull Wardlow up to the top rope. It looked like he wanted to throw him off into Lumberjacks, but Wardlow ends up hitting a superplex instead. And then the amazing happens where Wardlow hits a running head scissors in the middle of the ring on Luchasaurus while he was standing up. That was pretty crazy. Luchasaurus hits a Spanish fly in the middle of the ring. Wasn't as smooth as it could have been. Wardlow did not go with him, and he just kind of crumbled to the floor, and Luchasaurus kind of just did a moonsault and landed on top of him. And then they fight out onto the stage. Wardlow actually gets body slammed on the Wardlow hits a body slam on Luchasaurus. Jungle Boy goes out to check on Luchasaurus. At this point, Wardlow throws Jungle Boy to the heel side of the Lumberjacks, and then Wardlow and Luchasaurus start fighting up onto the stage. Brandon Cutler at one point tries to fight with Wardlow. He gets thrown off the stage into the crowd. Marco Stunt jumps on the back of Wardlow. He gets tossed so high in the air off the stage and into the Lumberjacks below. And then Luchasaurus hits the tail whip kick, and Wardlow falls off the stage into the crowd, and then all the faces kind of stand up Wardlow, and Luchasaurus does a shooting star press onto the crowd below. So it was a lot of people falling onto the Lumberjacks. They finally get back into the ring. Luchasaurus hits a bunch of kicks and then a choke slam, but MJF jumps up onto the apron and pulls the ref. Jungle Boy actually runs through the ring and spears MJF off the apron into the Lumberjacks. And then Wardlow has regrouped at this point, hits the F10 and gets the pin. Immediately after the match, a massive brawl breaks out. Basically all of the Lumberjacks, and then the main focus is MJF, Wardlow, and the Jurassic Express. They're all going at each other. And then when it's broken up, commentary actually says that Tony Khan has decided he's going to book a match for Fyter Fest, and it's going to be Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus versus MJF and Wardlow. So I thought this was actually a pretty fun match, especially seeing these two big guys doing some very not so big guy moves. And I thought it was fun. I thought it was a really fun match to watch.
Yeah, I did like it. Actually, we had a lot of the same notes. The superplex off the top rope was a 550 combined pounds, and hitting the middle of the ring, which it did. It looked like 205 guys hitting it. I liked this match. I had to watch it a second time because the first time around, I didn't really like the finish. It was fine. A low blow with an F10 finished the match, but then I think initially I had the problem with when the fight broke out, and then 6 seconds later, it was enough to finish. Luchasaurus was down, 1, 2, 3, but then within 6 seconds, he's up like nothing was wrong. I initially didn't like it, but the intention was to set something up further. And then I went back and rewatched it. I did. I liked it. It was a great way to start the show again. They start off with a bang, a lumberjack match. At one point, it was unintentional, but there was a moment where it looked like Luchasaurus, it was unintentionally sandbagged Wardlow. So if you don't know what sandbagging means, it's a term in the wrestling business for basically dead weight. So Eric, for an example, if you and I were in the professional wrestling match and I were to go for a suplex and your jump wasn't timed with my lift, that's sandbagging. And one of two things are going to happen with a sandbag. One, I'm either going to look weak as absolute crap, or I'm going to muscle through and kind of play it off. The sandbag was unintentional, but I don't think it really mattered, and you probably didn't catch it unless you were looking for it, because Wardlow is just that strong to throw a 300-pound guy that effortlessly, which still really blows my mind. The shooting star press off the stage from a guy that's, 6'7", 275, 280 pounds of pure muscle is it's insane. And Marco's stunt in this match, a guy that I kind of talked to a little bit earlier today, he compared Marco's stunt to this generation's Spike Dudley. And
yeah, I've heard that a couple times.
Yeah, and I actually got to agree with it thinking back the last 6 months. So, and I mean that with all respect in the world, because I feel Spike Dudley was really underappreciated in ECW, which is actually saying something. But this match was fun the second time I watched it, man. It had a lot of surprises in terms of it really showed the agility and the quickness of these two powerhouses. It was great. I thought it was a great way to start Dynamite. Absolutely.
Good catch on the low blow from Wardlow. I must have looked down while I was typing my notes and I missed that. So that makes me feel a little better about the finish, and Wardlow just didn't pop up and hit the F10. He actually had the low blow in there as well. So good catch there. We next have another Taz Technique by Taz video featuring Brian Cage. Talks about his speed and strength, just playing up Brian Cage in general. I love these segments. They're short and sweet. And then we have Britt. She is now in like a Pope bubble, a Pope mobile bubble, where she has plexiglass all around her now. She still is sending notes up to Tony. She says that they're no longer in a friendship time out, even though he allowed her to be kidnapped and thrown into a dumpster for 6 hours. She says never again, and then that she needs to get a clinical diagnosis on Luchasaurus's green tongue. And then she's surrounded by the plexiglass and security this week. I think she has another couple funny notes that she sends throughout the show. Next up, we have Hikaru Shida. She is supposed to face Red Velvet, but she makes a beeline right to Penelope Ford, who's sitting at ringside. They argue for a little bit, and Penelope slaps her. And then the ref is like, you have a match. You need to get in there. So she rolls into the ring, hits a running knee, Falcon Arrow, and it's over. She immediately leaves the ring and attacks Ford. She decks Sabian with a wicked punch, broke his sunglasses. I think she legit made contact with that one. And then Ford, I think, completely legit punch Ricky Starks right in the face. She was swinging at Shida, but her arm wrapped around the back of Shida's head and hit Ricky Starks right in the face. And I think he was kind of holding his eye more than his nose. I'm not sure which one it hit. I'm guessing it hit his eye, but it looked like he took a full-on punch from Penelope on that one.
Yeah, I liked whether it was intentional or not. Two women punching two dudes in the face really hard, breaking glasses and connecting on the chin or the eye or the nose, whatever it was. I think that added a real good toughness factor, especially for the match. It went exactly how I thought it would. Hikaru Shida, I liked. She walked right up to Penelope, got a little confrontational, went in the ring, handled business, 1, 2, 3, exited, and went right towards her opponent for Fighter Fest. I actually liked the match. I know it was over really quick, but again, it set up what it was intended to do, which was build up the AEW women's match. I'm fine with it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, Hikaru Shida threw that punch. I watched it again while I was snagging screenshots for my rundown this morning, and she connected nicely with that. But it's nice to see. I've always liked Hikaru Shida's punches. She lays them in pretty good, so. Mm-hmm. Some of the girls probably don't like that very much, but, you know, it's wrestling for you. Right. Next up, we had, I think was a huge miss of the night, was the TNT Championship press conference. Cody has like an entire team there. There's absolutely nobody on Jake's side. So there's Arn Anderson, Brandy, Allie was there. Some guy I didn't recognize. Dustin Rhodes was there. I think the guy I didn't recognize is one of QT Marshall's guys, who happened to not be in Georgia and get pulled from the show. Actually, I might as well step in right here. Actually, QT Marshall plus a lot of his students or people he works with who also work on AEW, they were all told to stay home. So Anna Jay wasn't there, and there was a couple more of his wrestling school students who couldn't make it because of the COVID exposure. Anyways, Arn gets asked if he's surprised that Jake didn't show up, and Arn just kind of goes on this rambling speech, and he's talking about that he goaded Cody into challenging Jake, and that's not surprised that Jake isn't there, blah, 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 blah. And then Cody talks about, he gets asked by another fake reporter, the name that they used. I didn't write it down, but I heard on another show, somebody caught it. It was a name of a fake reporter that was used in the past when they wrote articles in a kayfabe nature. So I completely missed that because I didn't know it, and I only heard it on somebody else's talk today. Basically, he babbles on about how the championship means hope. He talks about how Ricky Starks came in, and at the end of that match, he got a job with AEW. Like I said, it was pretty long-winded. Didn't really say a whole lot, and then Jake shows up with his wife. They basically have a face-off, and Jake puts his fist up against Cody's cheek, and Cody smacks it away, and he holds back all of his crew, and then Jake's wife decides to throw a glass of water in Cody's face, and they walk off. I thought this was a major swing and a miss.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. So I understand, and I see exactly what they were going for. I think everyone does. On paper, I'm sure it looked really good. But this, I can honestly, truthfully say that this might be the most overproduced segment that we've been given, which is saying something because we've had a lot of really good video segments, a lot of really good promos. Cody's promo was great. I didn't have a problem with any of the promos, but this definitely felt WWE-esque, just very overproduced. I don't get why Cody had so many people on his side. Like, I don't get it. I see what the payoff is. I'm sure maybe if there were a room full of people, maybe it would have had a little bit more of a reaction, but when it's bare minimal, and then Jake's wife just I don't know. It something felt out of place. It just didn't feel authentic. But I guess if this is what you're going to go with to set up the TNT Championship, what's done is done. It was what it was. But I didn't enjoy this segment at all.
Yeah, it was completely lacking atmosphere because there wasn't actually a crowd there to see it. When we normally see these press conferences, especially these days with like UFC or even just in football, you know, it's chaotic. There's people snapping pictures constantly. I don't think I heard a single camera click or flash or anything like that throughout this entire thing. It was like dead silent, and the camera angles were super weird, and it wasn't raw at all. It didn't feel like, like you said, it felt way overproduced for what it was. Basically, it probably would have been better if they just wung it with one camera.
Yeah, the different camera views behind all these legitimate reporters. It just felt missing that kind of love and attention to detail. It just felt, there. So yeah, I mean. That's all. I'm fine with moving past this. It's fine.
Yeah, just lack that authenticity, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Next up, they show a shorter version of what was on Twitter for the video of Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss. I mentioned that on the Newswire and said that they probably wouldn't show it. So I was half right. Again, they definitely truncated it a lot. But basically, this is a pickup from the to be continued video with Joey Janela a couple of weeks ago where Sonny Kiss picked him up in a convertible. Anyways, they drive to a gas station. Joey Janela goes inside and he starts shopping and picking up everything. He fills his cart full of like Lunchables. He's looking for Nutella. And then a bunch of guys approach Sonny Kiss and compliment the ride, the car, and they want to take it for a ride. And they get a little too close for comfort, and Sonny Kiss gets into a fight with like these 3 or 4 guys. And then so on the Twitter one, because I watched that more than once, I remember that one better. They showed Joey Janela. He's filling out a lottery ticket number pick, and you can see through the front of the store the brawl that's happening out front, but he's completely oblivious. He comes out the front door and sees what's going on. He has like 3 bags of stuff. He's eating a burrito, and he in the Twitter one, he throws the burrito at one of the guys, and then he starts fighting with the grocery bag still on his arms. So he's fighting, but he has him like in the crook of his elbow, and then him and Sonny Kiss beat up the guys, and they get back into the car. Sonny Kiss says, "I could get used to this," and Janela says, "Yeah, I could too." And then they head off into the night. So it was pretty good. You definitely have to go see the Twitter one, because it was probably about twice as long as what was on Dynamite. So you gotta go check it out. It's totally worth it. Did you see that one? On Twitter?
No, it's funny you say that. I did not, but I remember watching the one on television. I remember wishing it was twice as long, and hearing the Twitter one being twice as long. I'm definitely gonna go check that out after we do the show. Yeah. I like that segment a lot.
Yeah, it was really funny. So next up, we have a pretty reluctant Colt Cabana teaming up with Brodie Lee versus Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss. And while Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela have been doing very good on AEW Dark as a team, they're actually undefeated. I think they were 4-0 going into this match. Sonny Kiss gets a little bit of offense in the beginning against Brodie Lee, but Brodie Lee pretty much takes control at that point. Joey gets a nice tag. He runs like directly into Brodie Lee like he hit a wall, and Janela just like crashes to the ground. Brodie tags in Colt, and then Joey actually starts getting the best of Colt. So a little bit of story here where Colt Cabana can't help himself or fight for himself or something along those lines. And then behind the ref's back, Sonny gets a double kick to the back of the head by Alex Reynolds and John Silver. This is something that Colt actually doesn't see either, so he doesn't know he's being helped out by some of the Dark Order on the outside. They go through a commercial break. There was an issue with the fight feed this week where we actually just got black with the sound. So it was kind of strange, except for the very last one. So I don't know if anything happened during the commercial break, if you saw anything in picture. But after the commercial, they come back. Sonny and Colt are the legal men in the ring, and Sonny ends up getting a tag over Joey. He hits this crossbody off the top rope onto Colt, gives a nice double middle finger to Brodie Lee, and then Joey hits a Death Valley driver on Colt Cabana. Brodie tries to get involved, but Joey knocks him off the apron. Both Janela and Sonny Kiss do moonsaults to the floor off the top rope, and then Sonny hits the X's and O's on Colt Cabana. Janela hits a splash off the top rope. Sonny then hits a 450 splash. Janela covers for a 2 count. And then Colt Cabana does a nice reversal out of a Doomsday device into a roll-up. One of the Dark Order goons pull Colt out of the way of Sonny at one point when Sonny was going for a crossbody. Sonny hits a crossbody on the goons on the outside, though. Then Brodie Lee hits Sonny with a super kick on the outside. Joey Janela goes for a dive onto Brodie, but Brodie basically just steps out of the way, and he crashes and burns on the floor and into the barricade. Brodie Lee brings Janela back into the ring. He hits a huge discus lariat, but Colt Cabana is actually the legal man, and he basically offers up the pin to Colt. Colt gets the cover and gets the 3 count. So, very interesting match how this went, that whenever Colt was in there, the Sonny Kiss or Joey Janela basically gained control, and then Brodie Lee would come in to reverse the tide. So very interesting here. And then Brodie Lee basically handing up the pin at the end, and we'll get into a little bit of a segment with them behind the scenes in a little bit. But very interesting with Colt kind of questioning. You can see on his face he's questioning if what he's doing is right or not. And he is still oblivious to some of the illegal actions taken by other Dark Order members around the ring during this match.
Yeah, and I loved it a lot. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit. I'm going to try not to rant. I know I can, and I'm going to try to keep it to a minimum. This match, it was really good because what they did was they told that story. They told, by the way, Sonny Kiss deserves a lot of credit because he sold his ass off. He put a lot of really heavy offense in, and a lot of, he just sold, man. He did really, really good, but I liked how they built this new tag team of Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss as 4-0. So you have a tag team that's already, okay, they're 4-0, they're undefeated, they're rising in the ranks. And as we've seen in the tag team division or any division in AEW, if you're undefeated, you're going to get that opportunity. And so you see this new tag team forming. Janela and Kiss have really great chemistry. And then on the other side, you have the new tag team of Brodie Lee and Colt Cabana. And I love the story that they told because Colt Cabana goes into this match very unsure. He's, the Dark Order's this. I don't know. They have this sort of reputation. And I loved the smokescreen play. And what I mean by that is, in front of Colt Cabana, from what Colt Cabana can see, oh my gosh, we're winning this thing. Like it's the heel, it's the babyface Colt Cabana. We're doing this. Oh my gosh, we're actually doing really good. And then you got Brodie Lee like, yeah, we are doing this. And then as soon as Colt Cabana has his back turned, you get other guys of the Dark Order interfering. And it's setting up this illusion to Colt Cabana of, yeah, you know what? Maybe I should. I didn't expect this, but I kind of like where this is going. And it's just that influence that Brodie Lee has. It's this image of, hey, we have this reputation of being the Dark Order, but we're not so bad. And you kind of see that night and day when Colt has his back turned, what the Dark Order can do and what they're capable of. So I thought that really told the story very well. And I also enjoyed how none of this over the course of the whole show, which I'm not really spoiling this, none of that ever got back to Colt Cabana. So he's still in this illusion that we just took out together a 4-0 tag team. So we handed this hot tag team their first loss. It was just this, I don't know, it had a different feel to any tag match that we've seen thus far. And I think this definitely set up a really great not just set up the story, which is a poor choice of words. It continued to tell the story, and I think what it did was it emphasized what the Dark Order can do right in front of you without you even knowing it's happening. So I really, really liked the way this story was told.
Yeah, it took me a minute to pick that up, and especially when after I wrote it down and reread what I wrote, I'm like, wait a minute, Colt Cabana started losing every time he got into the ring.
Right.
So yeah, it was good. And then I might as well address this right now. Yes, JR did use she for Sonny Kiss.
Yes.
Sonny Kiss is perfectly fine with that pronoun. We went through this a couple weeks ago when Sonny Kiss was in the Battle Royale. JR actually went back and forth and used both pronouns, actually. And it's just what the pronoun he uses in private with Sonny Kiss, and Sonny Kiss is perfectly fine with that. So nobody freak out. Then we have... Right after the match, Lance Archer attacks Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela. So a little bit of a brawl here between them. Joey Janela picks up a chair, throws it at Lance Archer. Doesn't faze him at all. Lance Archer takes out Joey Janela, leaves them both laying, and Jake Roberts kind of pushes Lance Archer away, and that was that. So this sets up a match that gets announced later. What did you think about the run-in right here, just with Lance Archer coming in? Like, I can't figure out... There's no reason for him to come in and attack Janela and Sonny Kiss that I know of.
Yeah, so after the match, I got up and I heard Lance Archer ran in, and he was attacking Sonny Kiss. So I was like, oh, shit! Like, what did I miss? So I went back and rewound it. I was like, oh, it was an unprovoked attack. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know why it happened. I don't know. I guess I can't really say if I liked it, if I was pro or against it. I just maybe out of frustration, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know. It was weird. It was definitely weird.
It was strange. Maybe we'll get a little bit of explanation next week or on Twitter or something, but it'd be good if there was one here, maybe near the end of the show, if there was a quick, 30 seconds with Jake backstage with, one of the interviewers or something. All right. After this, we have a quick video showing Shawn Spears' dark match from the previous night, where Tully actually passes him a piece of metal to put in his glove to hit the knockout punch on Pineapple Pete. So it looks like Shawn Spears is using the glove as a loaded weapon at some point near the end of the matches, so that is going to be a secret weapon going forward. Next up, we have FTR squaring off against SCU, Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. This was originally supposed to be the Natural Nightmares where SCU is, but unfortunately, as we mentioned earlier, QT Marshall was exposed to somebody who then later tested positive for COVID-19, so they asked him to stay home, get tested, and just make sure everything is fine before he comes in. And then, so right before this match starts, Britt passes a note to Tony, says FTR can GTFO if they don't even want to stop and say hi to the face of the women's division. So FTR once again came in with their really nice lowrider truck, and they had to walk right by Britt Baker, so that is what she was like waving at them, and they just like completely ignored her. And then they actually did mention on TV why QT wasn't there, because of the COVID exposure, which is good on them for acknowledging that the real world exists. And basically, this match was a back and forth for quite a while. Eventually, Dax actually holds on to Cash for when he's going to hit the ropes. He holds him back so he avoids a Christopher Daniels drop kick. And then a brawl breaks out between the two teams, which they then head to commercial break here. After the commercial, Dax Harwood is getting in a million suplexes. There's a bunch of back and forth between the two teams. Each team tries to save their own guys a bit by breaking the rules here and there. Cash and Kazarian have a chop battle. Kazarian gets the best of Cash Wheeler, downs him with a clothesline, and then Kazarian hits a backstabber. Christopher Daniels hits a high kick, and then Kazarian hits an unprettier for a 2 count. They didn't call it unprettier. They didn't even call it anything, I don't think. And then FTR hits a double team leg drop for a 2 count, and then Daniels reverses a suplex, and he reversed a superplex. Mm-hmm. So he was upside down, but he managed to make it so basically when Dax was heading towards the ground, he managed to land on top of Dax. So it was like a kind of a splash, follow up or something like that. SCU hit a powerbomb neck breaker for a 2 on Dax, and then Christopher Daniels hits Angel's wings on Dax. Cash comes in and breaks up the pin. FTR hit a clean Goodnight Express on Christopher Daniels and get the pin. I thought this match was fine. It was good back and forth. Really, I always find that the matches that I have the least amount of notes for, there wasn't any massive spots that happened into it, but it was a good, hard-hitting, back-and-forth match, so there wasn't like anything specific to call out.
Yeah, my notes for this are pretty much the same. This was my favorite match of the night. You're talking about SCU and FTR. I mean, 2 of the best tag teams that AEW has to offer in an already stacked tag team division. What I love about this match, and it kind of also sets up the rest of the division, is I love how in the tag team division in AEW, or at least this match, those lines, and you brought it up a little bit, those lines between heel and face are blurred. Meaning both teams aren't afraid to get a little dirty just to come out with the win, because the tag team division is stacked and you're really, really fighting to get that gold. And I like having that feeling of that sense of urgency in every tag team match. This was fast. And I don't mean fast like the match was over in 5 minutes. I mean fast like every tag felt fresh. Every guy felt rested. Every guy felt quick. The chemistry between these 2 teams were very, very good. I have very limited notes except how much I loved it. It was a hard-hitting match. It was fast-paced. That counter, I rewound that a couple times. I've never seen that. That was really pretty off that top, man. This is one of those matches that when you walk away from and you look at if this match were to be okay, this match could have opened Dynamite. This match could have closed Dynamite. This was just a tag team, which we weren't supposed to have, right? Like, we weren't supposed to have SCU versus FTR.
Right.
So what we ended up getting instead was an SCU versus FTR just to hurry up. We'll fill the place. And it delivered. I wasn't expecting it. It was a really good match, man. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think this is one of the best that Christopher Daniels has looked since AEW started.
Oh, hands down.
This is a quality match out of CD.
Oh, Christopher Daniels looked really great. Also, because you know how I like to point this out anytime I see it, he has probably one of the best, or at least the top 5 drop kicks on AEW. He looked fresh. Christopher Daniels looked really, really good in this match, man. Good on him.
Yeah, I think the lighter schedule, he hasn't been wrestling every week, and right. I mean, he's 50 years old at this point, and he still looks good, and I think the lighter schedule is definitely helping him kind of recuperate a little bit, and getting like 2 weeks between matches let him kind of fully heal up before he gets in there again. After the match, Dax Harwood grabs the mic. He says FTR wasn't a welcomed addition to the AEW tag team roster. He says it's okay, though. There are good guys and there are bad guys, and we're the absolute baddest. And he says that he basically addresses all the teams, and he says on top of the list, I'm talking about the Young Bucks. Congratulations, you've graduated from the kiddie table. You're now eating with the big boys. And when it comes to FTR, you've bitten off a little more than you can chew. Because we talk heavy, we hit hard, and we are the absolute best on the planet. And he's about to start talking some more, and then we hear an engine revving. And it's actually Butcher and Blade have hijacked the truck that they had come in. hey, Cash, you probably shouldn't leave the keys in the car. And then Blade grabs a mic, basically says, hey, this is a pretty sweet ride. And FTR look like they're going to get out of the ring and go towards them, but he picks up a pipe and says, if you get any closer, I'm going to start smashing this truck. And then we see Lucha Bros have then come into the ring. They're standing behind FTR. And Blade says, I know you guys are excited for your dream match with the Young Bucks, but at Fyter Fest, we're challenging you to an 8-man tag, Butcher, Blade, and Lucha Bros versus the Young Bucks and FTR. And then Lucha Bros and FTR fight in the ring a little bit. The Bucks come out. The Lucha Bros run off to the truck and leave with Butcher and Blade. So Butcher and Blade and the Lucha Bros have stolen FTR's truck.
I'm just happy to see the Lucha Brothers back together again, man.
Yeah, I heard, I reported on Tuesday that Pentagon had made his way to Florida. He's gotten in the country, and I believe Jack Evans is also able to get into the country now as well, because he's been stuck in Mexico. But I think Angelico is still stuck in South Africa, so we will see when it comes to TH2. But anyways, I thought this was a really good segment right here, setting up an interesting match at Fyter Fest with Butcher and Blade and the Lucha Bros versus the Bucks and FTR. So this could be interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting an 8-man tag match. I also wasn't expecting the Lucha Brothers and Butcher and Blade to team up. But again, what this does is it puts that spotlight on FTR versus the Bucks somewhere down the line. Again, and we talked about this, I believe, last week or the week before. If they continue to build this up slowly, and I don't get to see these two guys or these two teams go up against each other until Double or Nothing of next year, I'd be fine with it. They are literally taking their time. But not only is this going to be, which I expect to be a huge clash when FTR and the Bucks finally get to go up toe-to-toe, I am really eager to see what a tag team consisting of FTR and the Young Bucks looks like to take on another 2 tag teams. So this is interesting to say the least.
Yeah, these guys are going to continue to be reluctant bedfellows. Basically, they've been saving each other's asses for 4 or 5 weeks now, and even though they want to kill each other, they still have to come out and save the other from the other faction of the Butcher and Blade that have it out for both of them. So I guess it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of deal here.
Yeah, but I also take it like that way there's no excuses. So if the Bucks get beat down by the Lucha Brothers, FTR's like, we don't want you using that excuse. We're going to come out, save your ass. So that way, when that time comes, we're toe-to-toe, there are no excuses. Yeah. And I'm digging that. I'm digging it a lot.
All right, next up, we had what I thought was a highlight of the show, the video package covering the Best Friends and Kenny Omega Hangman Page match for the titles. I thought this had enough humor in it, but actually, as it went on, it got more and more serious, and then it ended with some more humor. So it was a funny video. They're just talking about their relationship between Omega and Page. JR does not, he doesn't believe that the issues between Omega and Page are over and that they might flare up at any time. They have a strange relationship with Hangman drinking straight JD and Omega drinking milk. Chucky T and Trent talk about how can that they don't even drink the same thing, how can they be best friends? And they talk about how they're best friends and that they've actually never held tag titles anywhere that they've been. I could have sworn they held in New Japan, but I guess not. That's actually what split them up originally, because I think Chucky T's contract ran out first before Trent's did in New Japan, and their breakup angle was actually if they didn't win the tag titles this last time, then that's how they broke up in New Japan. But that's just because Chucky T's contract actually ran out a little earlier than Trent's. But anyways, that Omega says that they're the best. When they decide to do something, they do it just like that. We are the best wrestlers. We wanted to become tag champions, and we did it just like that. And JR then questions again the relationship and how stable it actually is. And that's basically it. I thought this was a really, really entertaining video, and it covered all the bases.
Yeah, it got straight to the point. Started out with the comedy, ended with the seriousness. You also, the fact that Jim Ross brings up is it a foreshadow? Are Omega and Page really over their differences? We don't know. They're setting that up. I am actually really surprised that Trent and Chucky T never won tag team championships anywhere. That actually blows my mind. I like it. It added not necessarily a layer, but when you think Hangman, Adam Page, and Kenny Omega and Best Friends going toe to toe, you're thinking, okay, two face teams going against each other. But they advertise it for the AEW Tag Team Championship, and that video package, and it was funny, but it still added a lot of questions. Are Trent and Chuck gonna get that monkey off their back, getting the Tag Team Championship? Are Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, are they gonna go at it? Like it told a lot while telling the bare minimum, and I thought this segment was really well done.
Yeah, great video package here. And then we actually have a break, and then we come back and we have a short Moxley package, Moxley versus Cage package. Moxley saying, I didn't know what to think about Brian Cage. Stupid Google Docs changed it to Brain Cage again. Didn't think a lot was between the ears, but then I decided under different circumstances I would actually like this guy. Then they show Mox getting tossed into the car, and then Excalibur and Tony are talking about what happened in the parking lot. Taz telling Cage that it was enough, that he needed to stop, but Cage still decided to pick up Moxley and throw him into the car anyways. So Tony is saying, well, even with Taz being who he is, he still doesn't have full control over Cage, and that Cage is a little bit uncontrollable, that he's his own man. And then Taz questions what kind of shape Mox is going to be in when they finally get to Fyter Fest. Is he going to be damaged goods?
Yeah, I mean the segment had a little bit of a. It was intense. It's setting up the precursor to the story, which who knows if we're actually still gonna get Moxley versus Cage, but just in case we do, this video it felt like a heavy hitter. I thought that this segment told everything that it needed to tell. It let Taz do his thing, presented Brian Cage in this really tough light. It presented Jon Moxley in this good guy, tough as nails, do anything to win. I mean, I liked it. The segment was great.
Yep. And then we had Brian Cage replacing Jon Moxley, because Jon Moxley had to stay home because his wife has COVID-19, so he's been exposed. So they asked him to stay home. We'll talk about that a little later. So Brian Cage was in there with Joey Cruz. It was a squash match. He pretty much destroyed him. And then they also did mention on commentary why Moxley wasn't there, so good on them, acknowledging the real world. And then Taz grabs the mic. He asks, where's Moxley? He says that it's a bullshit excuse for him not being there. He talks right into the camera, addressing Moxley at home. He says that Moxley's championship is in danger, and Taz wants Mox to ask himself, can you stop the path of Cage?
Yeah, so Joe Cruz... I'm going to call out any worker that I can, especially someone that's quote-unquote jobbing. Joe Cruz did great. Him crawling away from Brian Cage is something that I would probably also do if I was in a match with Brian Cage. Brian Cage threw him right back in. I loved when Joe Cruz tried to hit him with the crossbody. By the way, he was at least what? Let's say he was a cruiserweight, 205 pounds.
Oh, he was less than that. He probably was like okay. He was probably more like 170, 180. Yeah.
Okay, so when 180 pounds tried to do a flying crossbody into Brian Cage off the ropes, by the way, so he got some steam. Brian Cage didn't even flinch. He jumped into Brian Cage's arms, and Brian Cage just caught him like, huh. All right. Then he started doing a couple pumps. Ended the match.
Yes, he did bicep curls with him, and it looked like no effort at all.
Yeah, it was so effortless. It made me laugh, man. But it also added that, like, you also forget that's a human being. That's a person curling another person. Again, and then Taz talking into the microphone, or directly into the camera. Took his glasses off, stared directly into the eyes of every single person watching, but was staring directly at Jon Moxley. So it had a really good, I thought that was the exclamation point that I was kind of looking for in the video package, even though the video package was great. I really like this. I thought, again, it anytime Taz can talk, but I really liked everything that this match was, which is a little bit more than just Joe Cruz and Brian Cage, and this it added, again, a little bit more toughness to Brian Cage, and it set up Fighter Fest a little bit more. So I thought this was really great.
Yeah, I like that how they set this up. One, they already had the squash match with Hikaru Shida that took 10 seconds, right. But here Brian Cage, he could have finished the match in 10 seconds, but he just was like a cat playing with a chipmunk that he's caught, and he's just torturing it at this point.
Yeah, it was great. And that's something that I thought was, when you see Joe crawling away, that's exactly what it was, man. It was good. It was very fun.
Next up, we have a quick shot of Brodie Lee and Colt Cabana. Brodie Lee is talking to Colt that, look, success feels good. We won tonight. Success feels good. Loss happens in life. It's how you deal with it. It's how you address it. And then Brodie Lee turns to the camera and he says, "So I'm challenging SCU to a match." And then and Colt's like, "What? Really? SCU? You want to challenge SCU?" And Brodie Lee's like, "It's okay. It's okay. Trust me." So Colt kind of has this little questioning. It's like, does he want to challenge his friends? Because he interceded on SCU's behalf against the Dark Order when he debuted in AEW. So a nice little callback there, using SCU as the challenge. And Colt is still wavering on what he wants to do. He's happy that he won the match, but now he's like wavering, well, do I want to do this to my friends? And this story will continue.
And what I like about that, it has the potential to do the exact same thing that it did earlier in the night, which Colt Cabana goes in very reluctant, like, oh my gosh, like SCU, okay. And then Colt Cabana is going to have a very clean match. Colt Cabana is going to be babyface Colt Cabana. He's going to think that if Brodie Lee and Colt Cabana win, he's going to believe that they did it very clean, when I believe that when the back is turned, Brodie Lee's going to pull out all the tricks and do whatever it can to win and to prove to Colt Cabana, this is why you should be joining us. So I'm very excited to see where that match goes, because this storytelling right now with Brodie Lee the past couple weeks has been on fire.
Yeah, it should be a good one. Next up, we have the commentary going through all the matches for night 1 and 2. We'll address them after we finish out the show. Next up, Britt Baker sends another note up to Tony. And it says, "To Big Swole, I might have been in a dumpster for 9 to 10 hours." So we've gone up from, originally it was actually 1 hour. She said 5 to 6 when she was in the dumpster. She said 6 earlier in this night, and now she's saying 9 to 10 hours. "I might have been in the dumpster for 9 to 10 hours, but you're still the biggest piece of trash on this roster. I will have my big revenge, Big Swole." And then Big Swole comes out, and they're yelling at each other through the plexiglass. And Britt's like, "You can't touch me. You can't touch me." Swole walks off. But then we see she has climbed up the front of the golf cart because Britt didn't think about putting a top on her little bubble. And Big Swole just dumps a trash can over Britt's head, and she freaks out. So she's basically in a dumpster of her own making.
Yeah, so actually, quick question. So how long is Britt Baker out for?
It was originally 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay. So I really like that they're setting up a feud, especially with someone that's still sitting on the sidelines, and they're finding a way to do it every single week with comedy in these brief little segments. I also like that they're showcasing the AEW. They're advertising another like women's feud as opposed to just focusing on just the championship, which I really like. But the fact that they're really pursuing Britt Baker while she's sitting on the sidelines, which, by the way, they have a very talented women's roster. They could very easily pick someone until Britt comes back, but her segments are really good, and her notes with Tony Schiavone still crack me up. So I like the fact that they're taking a chance setting up a feud for something that we won't see for a few more months at the very minimal. So I'm really I'm really digging this, man. It seems like both parties are having a lot of fun with it. I liked the Pope. I'm assuming it's a Pope-mobile bulletproof type glass, but the fact that the top was open makes it. I don't know. It's fun. I like where they're going with this direction, and I'm really hoping the payoff for this feud is going to be really good.
I'm still hoping that we have dueling wheelchair girls when Chris Statlander feels a little better, because she obviously had ACL surgery. Yeah. So I kind of want her to come back and be like dueling with Britt Baker, but Britt Baker might be back before Statlander feels good enough to join in. Next up, we have Santana versus Broken Hardy. Santana filling in for Sammy Guevara because he was suspended last week for comments that he made many years ago to Sasha Banks. We have a Neo 1 appearance here. Basically, the match is a little bit of back and forth at the beginning. They fight onto the outside. Matt squashes Santana's head into the ring post like he did to Sammy during their match a while back. And then he runs him into the barricade. He bites Santana's hand. They go back into the ring, but Ortiz grabs Hardy's leg when he's trying to get into the ring, and then Santana takes advantage of this. Hits a bunch of rabbit punches to the kidney. Haven't seen that one for a while. Santana works over Hardy through a commercial break. Ortiz gets involved as well. Santana flips out of a side effect attempt. I thought that was a pretty cool counter. And then Santana hit a slam and a lion salt for a 2 count. And then Santana ends up missing a frog splash. They get into a striking exchange here. Matt actually drops him with that running clothesline that he's been using as of late. Matt hits a side effect for a 1 count. He hits a second one for a 2 count. He hits a third one for a 2 count. And then Santana hits the sit out Falcon Arrow type of deal. I'm not really sure what it was. I couldn't really... I don't think I've seen the setup for a Falcon Arrow like that. Santana goes for the cover, but Hardy reverses it into a pin of his own and gets the 3. And then immediately after the match, Ortiz comes in with the Mad Ball, hits Hardy, and then they hit Street Sweeper on him. Private Party run out, and Santana and Ortiz run off.
Yeah, so the match itself was fine. Matt Hardy was very, I don't want to say stiff, but Matt, I mean, the toughness factor, again, because this was Damascus, right?
Yes,
was this?
It was Broken okay. Matt.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah, so when you really see the toughness on Matt, I enjoyed. One of the things I took away from this match, which is actually, it was Santana, he did a lion salt, which Matt Hardy was already in the middle of the ring, but Santana backflipped so far that his face bounced off Matt Hardy's chest, and the rest of Santana's body bounced off the mat. So he flipped over damn near the entire ring, which is insane to me. It just set up something else for the next week or two, which is going to be Santana Ortiz versus Private Party. The match was fine. I thought it was good. Matt looked great. Santana looked great, and it was a good match.
Yeah. And then. Let's see, we had the final segment of the night was Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho in a bit of a face-off. Jericho grabs the mic. He does all the talking. He says, "Why did the chicken cross the road? To get to the other side. Why did the chicken cross the road? To get to the other side. Why did the chicken cross the road? To get to the other side." We've all heard the joke before. The first time you've heard it, it was a little amusing, kind of funny, a little stupid, but then the more you hear it, you realize how annoying and dumb it is. Orange Cassidy, you are the chicken cross the road joke of professional wrestling, because the more I see you, the more I see your act, the more you piss me off. When I first heard your name, I thought it was stupid. When I first saw your matches, I thought you were an embarrassment to the business. And then you signed with when you signed with AEW, I called Tony Khan, I called Cody, I called the Bucks and said, "Why the hell are you bringing in Orange Cassidy?" And they all said the same thing. People love him. When I watch some of your stuff, I kind of got it. I mean, what's not to love? You have a unique presentation, you dress your own way, and as the late Brian Pillman once told me, to make it in wrestling, you have to be different, do something that no one else has done before. I applaud you because you did the one thing on your own for being yourself. You got over, and that is part of the appeal to everybody is you're lazy, you're a slacker, and you know what I'm talking about. Let's see. You don't have what it takes to make it to the top, though, and you made a mistake when you broke out of your lane and got in the face of Le Champion. I'm Chris Jericho, man, and you better be the best Orange Cassidy that you've ever been at Fyter Fest. And if you try any of that kick me in the shin bullshit offense, I will knock your teeth down your throat and beat you in 30 seconds. As it stands right now, you better reach deep into those pockets and pull out a man-sized miracle, because that's what you're going to need to beat Le Champion at Fyter Fest. The Orange Cassidy phenomenon will be over, because I'm going to make sure you run out of juice. Jericho says, huh? Now that's funny. That's a funny joke. And then Orange Cassidy grabs the microphone. He puts it up to his mouth, and then he sets it down on the mat. He starts giving the shin kicks to Jericho, and he gives him the super kick to the shins. And then he actually turns his back to Jericho, turns around, puts his hands in his pocket. Jericho grabs Orange Cassidy's sunglasses off of his face and crushes them. Orange Cassidy doesn't take too kindly to that. And Orange Cassidy takes down Jericho just like he did last week, starts beating on them. They fight to the outside. Jericho gets run into one of the permanent railings in the facility. Orange Cassidy slams Jericho into the railing as well. And then Jericho smashes a bottle of water on Cassidy's head. They fight up into the crowd. They keep brawling. They get up to the first walkway in the stands. Jericho swings the boom camera jib into Orange Cassidy's head, and he actually starts bleeding from the ear. And then Jericho gets Superman punched off of a equipment crate. He flies through a table, and Orange Cassidy manages to find a new pair of sunglasses somewhere, puts them on, and he's the one standing tall at the end of the show. So Orange Cassidy gets the better of Jericho here on the Go Home segment, leading up to their match. Is there a match next week? No, their match is night 2, so 2 weeks away for Jericho and Orange Cassidy.
Okay, yeah, I'll be honest, I wasn't sure what I was going to get with an Orange Cassidy Jericho, especially to close the Go Home show of Dynamite before night 1 of Fyter Fest for next week. I didn't expect, I guess I expected something, but not this. I think I was pretty excited for this match because Chris Jericho and Orange Cassidy has proven he can go. Chris Jericho he's Chris Jericho. The first ever AEW World Champion versus a guy who, King of Sloth style? I think it's something that you don't think you'd ever get. But after what you saw when they were going at it. This adds a whole new legitimacy to Orange Cassidy. You saw what he could do against Pac. I'm excited for this match. I loved Jericho's cut on him, saying that he's the chicken cross the road joke, which I think it's perfect. If you really think about it. And I thought that was the best way to analyze it. And
it was a very smart analogy.
It was really on the nose, and I really liked it, because a lot of times when you see people cut these promos, you're like, oh, yeah, good burn. But when he said that, I'm like, oh, damn. I was like, okay. I was like, I really like that. So I made a point to write that down because I wanted to bring that up. I think this match could honestly steal the show of Fyter Fest. I really do.
Yeah, I think this could be the match of both nights.
Yeah, and considering that, and we're going to talk about Fyter Fest Night 1 and Night 2, but if we don't get Jon Moxley versus Brian Cage, I think this could have a really, really strong chance of headlining Fyter Fest.
Yeah, so this is 2 show-ending segments where Orange Cassidy is left bleeding, though I think this time it was hard way. I think that was an accident, because you're not going to accidentally bleed out, or you're not going to purposely bleed out of the ear. Right. So this one is definitely hard way. So 2 segments where Jericho ends up getting Orange Cassidy bloody. So it's basically a blood feud at this point.
Yeah, and also Orange Cassidy just proven that he has the best Superman punch in the game.
Yes, he does. That thing is awesome. All right, so a little quick here. Let's talk about the ratings real quick. AEW is down 150,000 compared to last week, and actually NXT was up 40,000 from last week. So they more than heavily swapped places. So AEW had 633, which is the lowest number of all time for AEW, and then NXT had 786. But it was still, combined audience was still higher than the higher than the average of the last 10 weeks. So overall, good audience outlook, but AEW is down a bit. I'm not totally sure why. All right, so let's talk about this quickly. As we've mentioned, well, probably not too quickly. As we've mentioned a couple times, we are a little wary if the match between Moxley and Brian Cage is even going to take place. So Moxley was pulled from the show. Originally, it was reported that it was a second-hand contact, so he wasn't directly in contact with somebody with COVID. But of course, we find out after Dynamite went off the air, Renee Young posted that she does indeed have COVID-19, and Moxley is married to Renee Young. That should not be news to anybody at this point. And he has been with her the entire time she's been sick. He has not tested positive for COVID-19, but I think it's probably only a matter of time. And even if he doesn't test positive for COVID-19, they're not going to want to have him come in next week. Because they were going to do Fyter Fest. They were going to do night 1 live on the 1st, and then they were going to tape the show for the 8th the next day on the 2nd. So that means in a week from today, they would want Moxley there, and I don't think there's possibility of him even being able to get to be there unless he's planning on leaving his wife for the next week, leaving her alone and not seeing her, which I don't think he's going to do, especially when she has been actually very sick.
Well, even then, because we just found this out within 2 days ago, how long does it actually take to get your results back for COVID-19? Isn't it at least a minimum of a week to 2 weeks?
There are a few different tests. There's a quick test that they can get back in 30 minutes, and then there's another one that takes a few hours. So they can do it quickly. That's why AEW have been flying their people in on Tuesday, testing on Tuesday, so they have the results by Wednesday morning.
Gotcha.
So the antibody test and whatnot, I think that's the one that they can do quickly. And then for an active case, that's the one that takes a bit longer. So I mean, but that's the problem. He's been exposed. He's been exposed for the past week, and he might not test positive for another few days. Right. Or he could, and of course she's still contagious, so he's not gonna, I'm assuming, not gonna leave her alone. So I don't know what's gonna happen, because he would have to quarantine himself for at least 2 weeks before even coming in. So if he started quarantining on Wednesday, then he could make it for the 8th, but I doubt he's doing that. And last I heard, he is not quarantining himself. I believe Meltzer was reporting that Moxley, they like, well, why don't you go quarantine at a hospital? He's like, well, I've been exposed to Renee for the past week, and she's been really sick. So why would I go out into the community and possibly expose other people? While he may not test positive right now, he could be contagious to other people. So that, of course, is a problem. So I am really doubtful of this match taking place anytime before the end of this month. But before the end of July, we're still in June, but before the end of July, I don't see this match happening.
I want it to happen because they've done a hell of a job setting it up, but it's kind of like one of those things where you really don't know, especially the circumstances just so crazy. And Moxley makes a good point. I might not, but I also might. Why would I go out and at this point? It's not too late, but could be. I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, I wouldn't have my hopes up on this match, but I don't think he's leaving Renee Young anytime soon. So
yeah. So in a roundabout way, WWE is waging biological warfare on AEW.
Yeah,
they have, I know of at least 3 couples that work in the opposite company. We have Britt Baker and Adam Cole. We have Big Swole and Cedric Alexander, and Moxley and Renee Young. So,
and then you got Peyton Royce and Sean Spears.
Yeah, so that's 4. So yeah, I forgot about that. So yeah, we have a lot of cross pollination between people. So this could be a problem, especially because we have at least 3 people that are confirmed having COVID in WWE as of this afternoon. So we will see how that goes, but they're reporting there could be a lot more, as many as 24 people. So,
well, if worst, well, not worst, well, your next That's Wrestling Newswire, the headline might be, did Vince McMahon wage biochemical warfare on the competition?
Yep. All right, so let's get into Fyter Fest. This is a stacked card. Let me just run these down. We got night 1 is Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus against MJF and Wardlow. We have Private Party against Santana and Ortiz. We have Hikaru Shida versus Penelope Ford for the AEW Women's title. We have Cody versus Jake Hager for the TNT Championship. We have Hangman Page and Omega versus Best Friends for the tag titles. And then on night 2, we have Lance Archer and Joey Janela. So that's come out of Lance Archer attacking Sonny and Joey. We have Nyla Rose in action with an unnamed opponent thus far. We have all 3 members of SCU versus Brodie Lee, Stu Grayson, and Colt Cabana. And then we have Jericho versus Orange Cassidy. And then Lucha Bros and Butcher and Blade versus Bucks and FTR. And then the up in the air title match of Moxley versus Cage. So let's talk about night 1 here. We got Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus versus MJF and Wardlow. I think we had talked about, I don't know why they gave away Luchasaurus and Wardlow on TV. This seems like it would be a pay-per-view quality match. They're doing the tag team match here. So interesting how this kind of played out a little backwards from what I would expect.
Yeah, because we brought up, I mean, if we were going to get it, especially when they brought up that it was going to be a Lumberjack match on Dynamite, we're like, this feels like it should be at Fyter Fest. So it was kind of weird that they set up, instead of out of a what should have been a Fyter Fest match, to set up a tag team match between MJF and Wardlow versus Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. I think I'm going to go ahead and say that MJF and Wardlow is going to walk away with this one.
I would go with the same. Next up, Private Party and Santana and Ortiz. Really, the link between these two is Matt Hardy, but he is not in the match. So, wondering where this is going to go. They've had a match before. I'm trying to think back when. I think it might have been December, maybe, when they have their match. Maybe even November. I remember that one of their buddies... both teams were friends with a wrestler who actually was killed biking in New York City, the day or two before. So I remember that, but I don't know when that exactly was. But anyways, going into this match, we have these two. I'm not sure where they're heading with it. If they're going to start building Private Party again, or are they going to start building Santana or Ortiz? Because both teams have been kind of relegated to the lower end of the tag team division at this point. Actually, I have the rankings up right here. Oh, I have last week's ranking, so give me a second. Go ahead and talk about that.
All right, so yeah, Private Party and Santana Ortiz, both teams not necessarily been on the downward, but they've both been popping up on television. They've both been having matches, whether it's been Mark Quinn challenged Cody for the TNT and put on a really good singles match, by the way. This could go either way. Again, this is AEW tag team at its finest. I don't know which direction they're going to go with. Matt Hardy has been trying to, I guess, put Private Party under their wing, and Santana and Ortiz are still a really dangerous tag team. But I think this match, I think I'm going to have to go with Santana and Ortiz.
Yeah, I'm going the same way. Private Party are on the bubble at rank number 5. So if they lose this match, I'm guessing they're dropping off. Santana and Ortiz are probably moving on up that to number 5. I think they'll just swap places for there. Then we have Hikaru Shida versus Penelope Ford for the AEW Women's title. I think this one's probably not too controversial that Hikaru Shida is probably going to pull this one out.
Yeah. I contemplated just saying Penelope Ford just to play devil's advocate, but I don't see Hikaru Shida losing the AEW Women's Championship. I think she's going to have a really, really good, meaningful reign. So Shida's definitely going over.
Yeah, Kip Sabian said that Hikaru Shida owes him a new pair of sunglasses on Twitter. If Penelope Ford wins, she has to buy him a new pair of sunglasses. Next up, we have Cody versus Jake Hager for the TNT Championship. I think this build has been a little lackluster, but I think the match should be okay. I am probably going to stick with Cody keeping the title here.
Yeah, I want to say Cody's going to keep the title, but I think just for this, honestly, I want to say Hager, but I think since it's been a lackluster build-up, I think the match is going to be really good, but I think since it's been a lackluster, I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on Cody losing. So yeah, I'm going Cody over Jake Hager as well.
All right, we have Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus Best Friends for the tag titles. This one is probably the most up in the air decision for me on this card. Right. I think they might actually go Best Friends here, and I'll give you the reason why. If this is the time that they start to pull the trigger of the Omega Hangman Page breakup, right, and they want to keep FTR and the Bucks apart, pulling the Bucks back into this story is a way to do that.
Yeah, again, I really, God, we're thinking a lot alike on this one. I think if there was ever a time, and I'm not saying Hangman Page and Omega, I'm not saying it's gotten stale, because it hasn't.
No, not by a long shot. I'd be fine if they kept these two together for another 6 months.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be good with it because they're doing really great, because when you have those guys as champions, you have, like I said, the rest of the tag team division is so good, and it is so up in the air. But I think now may be the time to just go ahead and pull that trigger and set up Page and Omega for maybe leading up to All Out in August. I'm gonna go Best Friends.
All right. So then we have Night 2, Lance Archer versus Joey Janela. I think Lance Archer is gonna take this one. I don't really see much reason not to give it to him. Well, unless Sonny gets involved.
Yeah, you know what? Our picks have been the exact same, and for the sake of just going risk, I think Joey Janela is going to take out Lance Archer.
All right. Nyla Rose in action. We don't know who she's going to be facing. Given that they haven't announced an opponent, I'm guessing Nyla Rose is going to win that one regardless of who it is. We have SCU versus Brodie Lee, Stu Grayson, and Colt Cabana. I think we're going to go the same way. This is going to be Brodie Lee, Stu Grayson, and Colt Cabana winning this one.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. We kind of went on length on that one already when we were talking about them.
Yeah.
Jericho and Orange Cassidy. I think this one's a toss-up a bit, but I think it's still going to skew towards Jericho.
Yeah, also, it could be one of those things where
Jericho wants to make the new guy.
Yeah, and it also could be one of those, exactly, like, you don't know what's going to happen with this, also, because you got Chris Jericho and Orange Cassidy, but also, I think this could also depend on where it is on the card, because I definitely think that this could main event Night 2 of Fyter Fest, assuming we don't get Moxley and Cage. So it could go either way. If it's headlining, I think if it was in front of a crowd, I think Orange could be the one, and Jericho would very willingly put him over. I think I'm going to stick with Chris Jericho for the time being. I think Chris Jericho.
All right. And then we have Lucha Bros and Butcher and Blade versus Bucks and FTR. This one could go either way as well. With Lucha Bros and Butcher and Blade defeating Bucks and FTR, that could sow more heat between the Bucks and FTR. If the Bucks and FTR win, does anybody come out on? Does that help the story at all? I don't think so. So I think it's actually going to be Lucha Bros and Butcher and Blade on this one.
Yeah, actually, that was the exact same thing I was talking to a coworker with this morning about why we think Lucha Brothers and Butcher and Blade are going to win, because it's eventually, you can see FTR and Young Bucks, we've seen them go together, we've seen them save their asses. I think it's about time to drive a little bit of a nail between them and start to establish them getting at each other's throats instead of bailing each other out. So I think Lucha Brothers and Butcher and Blade over FTR and Young Bucks.
Yeah, definitely, because I think if Young Bucks and FTR win, nothing's accomplished at that point.
Yeah, if you have FTR and Young Bucks win, it's like, okay, great, yeah, we won. Now what?
Right, and it kills the storyline, and I think the storyline still needs to be continued with Butcher and Blade getting the Butcher and Blade with FTR. I think that storyline still needs to be there, and then pulling in the Natural Nightmares to continue the Alley storyline. Assuming Alley is still aligned with Butcher and Blade, I still don't see any reason why she's not. And then last we have Moxley and Brian Cage. If it happens, I am torn on which way this is going to go. I would rather them keep the belt on Moxley. I don't think Cage should have it at this point, but why did they bring in Cage, immediately send him into the title picture just to beat him? Though they did that to Brodie Lee, so there could be a larger picture here that Tony Khan has in his mind, and he might continue down that road that Moxley beats Brian Cage, even though Cage looks like a big contender for him.
Yeah, I again, this is AEW booking at its finest. You don't know the direction they're going to go. So anytime, and I'm looking at night 1 and night 2 right now in front of me, some of these matches you're thinking, okay, well, right now, I guess it would be a good time to pull this trigger, and this right now, this would make sense for the here and now. But then I keep looking at other matches on the card, which is incredibly stacked, by the way, and I'm thinking, well, this isn't the right here, right now, but this goes for the future. Because when we're having Fyter Fest 2 nights, we're going to have some stories end, and we're going to have some new stories start. Because the next goal is the next stop is going to be All Out. I don't know where they're going to go with this AEW World Championship match, because it's so up in the air right now at this point. But if I'm going to assume this is the headline on night 2, Jon Moxley versus Brian Cage for the AEW World Championship, I want to see Mox with it, but I'm thinking long term, because we haven't really had a rematch for an AEW World Championship match. We've had Chris Jericho versus Jon Moxley. We had Moxley win. We had Jon Moxley versus Brodie Lee. Jon Moxley won. And then because I said I wanted Brodie Lee versus Jon Moxley again. I didn't get it. They took Brodie Lee in a new direction. So here we have Jon Moxley versus a new contender. I think Brian Cage walks out of Fyter Fest Night 2 as the AEW World Champion.
All right, so we're going to disagree on that one, but Likens in the chat agrees with you. He thinks Cage is going to win as well. Assuming this match happens, I'm sure we're going to... Well, if they're going to tape on the 1st and 2nd, obviously we're going to find out by next Wednesday if they decide to push out the show on the 8th to actually do it live instead, to let Moxley do whatever they feel he needs to do to get there, or whatever he feels is right. I guess things will play out. I'm guessing we'll probably know exactly what's going on within the next day or two, because they're going to have to make a decision to figure out what he's going to do. Because if he's staying with his wife and staying by her side, then he's not going to be there. There's just no way they can do it. So, let's see. I believe that is it. Some interesting shoulder content this week. Being the Elite was canceled on Monday and then uploaded on Tuesday to pull various just to make sure they could pull various episodes. They've been pulling down various episodes with various characters because of allegations happening. The AEW Dark had Orange Cassidy and Peter Avalon, which actually was a pretty good match, and Orange Cassidy shows off why he does have the best Superman punch in the business. So good to see it there. So we will see how this continues to play out. We're in a very, very strange time now. Now we're dealing with both various accusations of various types of abuse, plus we're dealing with COVID. This is getting very strange right now. If the world of professional wrestling wasn't already really, really strange, now it's just getting out there.
Yeah, it's every day it seems like something horrible's coming out, and like I said, it's a very unpredictable time in the wrestling world right now. So
yeah, let's just hope that anything that can go wrong does not go wrong to AEW, because I really hate that to go down the drain in the first year. Yeah. All right, so I don't have anything else. You got anything else to talk about?
No, I don't have anything. Same thing that I always talk about. The world is slowly and surely becoming a more normal place, besides social distancing and masks and this, that, the third. We are slowly, and when I say we, I mean myself and other workers in the business, are working towards putting together shows. You got to support your local independent wrestlers, guys. I mean, I've said it before. PWA, Pro Warrior Alliance, the promotion that I work with. We've had Adam Cole, Kevin Owens, Cesaro. Matt Hardy was a PWA Tag Team Champion. You'd be surprised at the amount of talent that goes through independent wrestling. Guys that you'd see at a wrestling show that wrestled at a local armory in front of 10 people are the same people that we're talking about on AEW Dynamite on a weekly basis. If you want to support local independent wrestling, because a lot of these guys, this is their livelihood, to make extra money and to make a name for themselves, but we haven't been able to do that. So if you ever hear about anything about local independent wrestling in your town, please go support. You can support in a lot of other ways. Buy a shirt. You can support my local independent wrestling promotion by going to facebook.com/Pro Warrior Alliance. Check us out. We're not as active on there because it has been crazy because we're unsure what we're going to do. But also, if you like the podcast, feel free to message Pro Warrior Alliance. Say, hey, that Dustin West guy is not so stupid after all. But also, I see we are sitting very pretty right now on iTunes with a 5-star review, but we don't have as many comments as we'd like to. So if you guys like and support the show, you should head over and give us a great review if you like the content. But also, I'm going to plug Eric LaRoche's That's Wrestling Newswire on That's Wrestling, because he does a really great job. It's been very negative news, but that's out of Eric's control. But I see all the stuff that he's trying to keep everybody up to date on. So if you're a pro wrestling fan and you like this podcast, go to That's Wrestling on YouTube to check out what else Eric LaRoche has to offer.
All right, thanks for that endorsement, and be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and share stuff around. That really helps. Also, there's a Discord in the description of both the podcast and the videos. If you want to send a mailbag, questions, comments, feedback, all that fun stuff, Eric at that'swrestling.com. And also, if you're into New Japan, check us out tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern. We will be covering nights 3, 4, and 5 of the New Japan Cup. Of course, that's also available as a podcast and will be video on demand after the show is over. But if you hit that little bell notification whenever I schedule a live stream, so whether it be for the AEW Dynamite review or New Japan, which is not going to be consistent because they move their shows around, they don't have a week-to-week schedule, it will alert you to say, hey, this is going to be live in 23 hours or whatever it ends up scheduled as. So thanks for tuning in this week, and we will see you next time on That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.